All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the channel. If you're coming over from TikTok, we appreciate you guys swinging over here to YouTube to check out the channel. If you're just finding us on YouTube, myself and my son, we go over oilfield entry-level jobs, how to get into the oil field, and different jobs that are available to people without experience, what companies you can get hired on with, and where to look for jobs at, basically. In this video, I'm going to kind of discuss the oil field in general and go over some of the oil field positions that are considered entry level and different companies that you might be interested in looking up on Indeed, or if you're wondering why people would be interested in getting into the oil field. Oil field pays very good, especially with the amount of overtime you get, and a lot of jobs, the hours that you work or the shift that you work, there's a lot of overtime already built into that schedule. You might work a 14 and 14 where you have 14 days on shift and 14 days off. There's also what they call a 7 and 7 where you work 7 days on, 7 days off. There are a bunch of different schedules out in the oil field, and all of them usually have overtime factored into your entire shift. You can get even more overtime because a lot of companies are shorthanded, and if you volunteer, you can get a lot more hours, a lot more overtime that way. Starting out in the oil field, it's not hard to get up to $100,000 a year. And as you move up and you gain more experience, or you get hired on with a bigger company and become an embedded employee instead of a contract employee or something like that, you can really start making more per hour, which then whenever you're making more per hour, your overtime goes up because it's time and a half. And that can really boost the amount you make in a year. Not only that, but once you get into some of these bigger companies, they pay what they call bonuses. And it's a yearly deal, and a bonus is just for doing a good job the whole year. The company made a lot of money. We're going to give you some extra. And I've had bonuses that ranged anywhere from $15,000 to $29,000 in a single bonus. So that's something to think about. You know, that large of a bonus is more than some people make working a full-time job in some places for, smaller companies. Now, in the oil field, a lot of times you don't necessarily have to live where you're working. A lot of companies will put you up in what they call a man camp. And in a man camp, they have workout rooms, they have food available, cafeterias, stuff like that. And you have a small room to yourself with your own facilities and everything. And you'll live there when you're not working. And you'll say you're working a 14 and 14. So for 14 days, you'll live in that man camp. Have everything available for you. From the man camp, you'll go out to whatever location you're working on and just back and forth, and it gives you a place to relax and recover from working. Now, there are a lot of different ways to get into the oil field because there's a lot of steps in the oil field process. You have drilling and completions, you have production, and then you have third-party services. Drilling is started whenever they find the location, they bring the rig out, and the rigs hire a lot of people. You can get on as a floor hand with the rig. That's an entry-level position right there. They'll drill the well. Once they're done drilling the well, the frack crew will come in, and they go in and they run downhole with explosives, basically. And they go into different zones and perforate it with those explosives. And there's a lot of moving parts on a rig and on a frack crew. Lots of jobs available on both sides of that. Once the frack crew is done, wireline comes in. And wireline crews have a large number of jobs available with them too. There's a lot of moving parts to all these processes. And they have entry-level jobs in every one of them. So it's just a matter of finding that entry-level position and applying for it to get your start in the oil field. Now, once wireline's done, we have what we call flowback. Flowback, they come in and they rig up to the wellhead, usually with 1502 high pressure iron, and they go through, rig it through what they call a sand knockout or a sand trap, and that allows the fluids and everything to flow through the sand trap to knock out sand before it goes to the actual equipment. And it gives them a chance to dump that sand off instead of all the sand flowing through all the equipment and washing out parts and stuff like that. Usually it goes from the sand knockout through a manifold and back through the wellhead and onto the process equipment. Now, in some cases, smaller companies will have flowback crews bring out a full setup, which will be a separator, a flare, your SKO, everything, and you'll flow through all of that equipment. That's the way I started out. Now, a lot of companies nowadays, they just go from the wellhead to the SKO through the manifold, back through the wellhead to the company's equipment, and that allows them to pay less for rental fees on all the other equipment. They just need a small amount of equipment and a couple operators out there. Now, the operators that are operating that equipment and flowing back are what they call well testers. And well testers get paid pretty good money. You'll go out. Sometimes they'll have an RV where you stay on location. Other times they might have where you're going out and stay on location for your shift. You go back to the man camp. If people live local, at the end of your shift, you'll go back home, drive back out the next morning, just depending on your situation. And flowbacks can go for, when I was doing flowback, it was a different process. And I've seen it take some time, especially with some of these big facilities that companies are building now. But sometimes I'd go out, it might be 7 days I'd only be there. At one point, I think I was staying up to 60 days on some locations. And back then, I actually got paid 24 hours a day while I was on location. They don't do that anymore. And that's too bad for the flowback guys, because that's a lot of money. But nowadays, you'll average anywhere, your normal shift is going to be 12 hours, but most companies pay you a couple hours more, anywhere from 14 to, I think, there's some companies that go all the way up to 20 hours. But usually it's going to be in that 14 to 16 hour range. So after you're off, after your 12-hour shift, you get paid for a few extra hours. That throws some more overtime onto your paycheck. Once the flowback testers are released, the production side takes over, which would be your operator, pumper, production technician. They have a bunch of different names. Now, once it's in production, that's where a whole scope of jobs come in. Because not only do you have your production technician, but you also have automation, you have electrical, you have maintenance crews. Before the pad's even built, you have construction crews that come out and build up the wellhead, the well pad that the whole facility is built on. Then you also have crews that come in and build the facility. They go off an engineer's diagram, they build the whole facility. They put all the test vessels, separators, everything that processes from the whole phase in. So then from there, you move into, you have just tons of third-party jobs out there that you can get hired on for, whether you're an electrician, you got roustabouts out there, automation techs, roustabout crews that come in and work on the equipment whenever something breaks down. You have welding crews out there. Just a ton of jobs out in the oil field that you can get hired on to. So don't think it's a limited, and it doesn't matter what your age is. It doesn't matter whether you're male, female. Anybody can get a job in the oil field pretty much. So, and there are just tons of companies that you can work for and get your first leg into the oil field. And then as you're gaining experience and meeting other people and finding out what job they have, ask them how to get into that position if it's something you're interested in. Most people will tell you, hey, this is how you'd get into this position. Make good contacts, because that can help you get another job. If you're interested in moving from the company that you're with, or you're interested into moving into a different position. We do that all the time with our company. We've got flowback testers out there. We've got chemical guys, everybody. And if we see somebody that's working hard out there, whenever a position comes open, we'll tell the lead that's hiring for that position, hey, let me get this guy's resume for you, because he is a good worker. He's done a lot of good stuff on our locations for us, and he knows our company. So that's how you get a contact. That's how you get that step in. You know how a lot of people say, oh, you got to know somebody in the oil field to get a job. Well, that's how you know somebody and get a job. There are so many jobs that you can get without knowing anybody. When I started in the oil field, I had no experience. I knew a bunch of guys that worked in the oil field, and I didn't ask any of them to help me get me a job, anything. I just went out one day, and from Midland, Odessa back to Pecos, Texas, which is about 90 something miles, I've stopped at every oil field company I could find, and I put in an application with them. And I got lucky and got a call back from one right here in Pecos, and that's how I got started as a flowback tester. So don't think you have to know somebody. Don't think you have to have a ton of experience to get some of these jobs. If you go on Indeed and you search for entry-level oil and gas, be specific. Now, if you want to come to Texas, look for like Pecos, Texas, Kermit, Texas, Midland, Odessa, Texas, Andrews, Texas. Or if you can put a large search area, put it, if you're putting Pecos, Texas, put it within a 100-mile radius. If you're putting Midland, Odessa, put a 100-mile radius on there or more. If you're in New Mexico, there are a ton of jobs over there. New Mexico is part of the Permian Basin also. My company, I work with a lot of people. With our group covers New Mexico and West Texas, the whole Permian Basin area here. If you're up in North Dakota, Ohio, some of these other places that have oil and gas, search that area for companies. If you hear a little bit of noise in the background, it sounds like we're getting a little bit of a hailstorm. So just bear with me. If it gets too loud, I'll cut the video and catch back up here in a minute. That'll give you guys a general idea of what the oil field is, what type of jobs are available out here, and what the process is, and why there are so many companies that you can apply for. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you want a specific video made covering a certain thing, let us know. Myself and my son have a lot of experience in the oil field. I've been in the oil field for over 14 years, and I think my son's he's over 8 years. So there's a lot of knowledge here. We know a lot of different companies. I deal with a ton of companies every day with my job. So there are a lot of great jobs in the oil field, guys. Go out and apply. Find that first job, and then figure out what you want to do from there once you start gaining experience and move up. Thanks, everybody.